Hi, drawing. Let's talk about the 1 point perspective assignment and let's take a look at what you guys are going to have to do for this. So when you're drawing in 1 point perspective, there's a certain set of, I want to say, rules. There's a way to do these that is, it's a little bit rigid, but I'm assuming that some of you have probably done 1 point perspective drawings before. But if you haven't, 1 point perspective is essentially when you're looking at a box. So let's see if I can find, okay, so here's my little diagram on 1 point perspective. You're looking at a box with the face of the box or the rectangular prism parallel to your face. So you're looking at it front on, not from a corner. Which we see, where is it? 2 point, should be 2 point. Okay, so 2 point perspective, which we're going to be doing after 1 point perspective, is when you're looking at a box and the corner is closest to you. When you're looking at a box and it's like one of the sides or the faces is parallel to your face, that is when we see things in 1 point perspective. There are other kinds of perspective here that we're not going to do. They're in this little chart that I've made for you guys. Hopefully there are I think there are a couple of typos in here, but you'll understand what I mean in context of everything else. But we're not doing isometric or 3 point. We are doing 1 point and 2 point. So take a look at that to get a little bit more familiar with how this works. So in this painting here, this is Raphael's School of Athens. The painting uses both 1 and 2 point perspective. 2 point perspective, this box is rendered in 2 point perspective, and then the whole entire interior of the room is rendered in 1 point perspective. And we can see that this dark black line that goes across the painting here, this is just a section of the painting. So this is the entire painting or fresco. And the vanishing point is somewhere behind, it's like right here, right? So that's the vanishing point. So it's like right here. So all of these lines, these diagonal corners, are going to that back corner between these two people, right in the center of the painting. When we look at the box has two vanishing points, which I'll talk about in the next section. But the two vanishing points also exist on this horizon line, which also represents your eye level. So all of your vanishing points when you're doing perspective, if you're combining 1 and 2 point perspective, and even if you're doing 3 point perspective, which we are not doing in this class, but if you're doing 1, 2, or 3 point perspective, all of your vanishing points are going to exist on this horizon line. So I have included a video which explains the difference between 1 and 2, which is basically what I told you, but this is just a repetition of that. I've included, here's a little sketch that I did in 1 point perspective. You're going to be doing yours a little bit differently, but this is a sketch in 1 point perspective. I've included this diagram, which is, I don't know, I think this diagram is a little confusing, but I just put it in there because even if you do find it confusing, at least you have it. This is your horizon line, that's your vanishing point. All your diagonals, all your corners are going to be going back towards, and they're going to converge to the single vanishing point. And it's kind of like if you took a pencil or like if you thought of the corners of a hallway being like the hands of a clock, they would always connect to that point. And then if you look at, this is kind of the progression of the drawing as it develops. So the tops of these paintings and the tops of the doors and the bottoms of the doors and, any line that is going away from you is going to converge to that one single vanishing point, including the lines like these are the tiles of the floor. So those are all gonna converge to that one single vanishing point. And then any horizontal line you have that you see is always going to be parallel with the top and the bottom of the page. And then the same thing with the verticals. They're always going to be parallel with the sides of your page, and every other line that is moving away from you or towards you, whichever way you want to look at it, is always going to converge to that one single vanishing point. Again, I don't want you to use a ruler for this because I want you to practice freehand. You can use a ruler as a guide and draw little tick marks so that you know where, like which direction to connect the dots. But you should be able to do this without using a ruler, freehand. Here are some videos of people drawing in one point perspective, which I thought were helpful. They're not the greatest, but it will give you an idea of how to approach this. So here are two interior rooms and then one hallway. So what you are going to have to do, and I want to look at some other examples with you from another class that I have. You are going to have to draw. Let's go to the assignment page, the example page. You're going to put this is just a space holder. Obviously, you're going to write something about your experience with this. You're going to draw 3 objects in 1 point perspective. Give yourself time to do these drawings because there's three drawings that you have to do. You're going to do 3 drawings in 1 point perspective of objects. So what I want is the root form, and then let me zoom in here a little bit for you guys, the root form, and then the object as it exists in that root form. So you're doing 2 sketches, so 6 sketches altogether. So 1 above, 1 on, and 1 below. And you want to do 3 different objects. It helps to experiment with one that's cylindrical, so you have that experience of drawing circles. But what you notice about these drawings is that there's the root form, and then there's the object as it exists in the root form. So that's why I want you to do both drawings. You're going to draw this once here, and then you're going to draw it again, and then you're going to put your forms inside of the overall form that it exists in. So this is the first part of the drawing. It should be done on 18 by 24 inch paper. Again, try not to use a ruler. Try to do your best, freehand. With this one, I mean, I'm not really concerned as much with this one as I am concerned with the hallway, but try to understand how to try to practice doing these without using a ruler to develop your hand skills and your muscle memory. Okay, so the second part, sorry, my computer has been a little funky. The second part of the assignment is drawing a theoretical hallway. So you're going to, it's a little different when you're drawing objects in 1 point perspective and when you're drawing hallways or interiors in 1 point perspective. I say a hallway, I think I said a hallway. But if you really want to do an interior, you can. These videos demonstrate both. Hallways, I don't know, hallways might be easier. They give you more of that illusion. So when you're drawing your hallway, here's a theoretical hallway that was just done. You can see that all the vertical lines are vertical and all the horizontal lines here in the back, these are horizontal, they're always horizontal, parallel with the tops and the bottoms and the sides of your page. And then all of the lines that look like they're moving away from you are always going to hit that vanishing point. It should be a straight line, not a bent line. I'll look at some examples in just a second at the end here, but they should always converge back to this vanishing point. And this is going to, if you do a theoretical hallway, it helps you when you do the final hallway, because or interior, you're going to do a final drawing. And this was from my in-person class. They did not use rulers. I think this came out pretty well. And you can see that all of these lines are going back to that single vanishing point. This one maybe could have been adjusted a little bit more to converge back there, but I think this was a pretty good drawing for the most part. And actually, I know that these lockers and these lockers were the same, they were the same lockers. So theoretically, this line would have continued onto this line because these lockers were the same exact lockers. So it was just like there was a break here for the door. So this should have continued. Although this is still a good drawing. I think this is still a very convincing and well done drawing. You're not gonna, you know, don't worry about mark making or anything like that for these. What I'm looking for is that you're constructing the drawing correctly and that you're using 1 point perspective, you know, the way that you're following the principles and the rules of 1 point perspective. What I also want to tell you is that if you look at this drawing, this is part of the reason why I don't like this drawing. These lines are going right out to the very corners of the page, and that creates this, you know, and the vanishing point is right in the center, which creates this very strong centralized symmetrical composition. And if you look here, this is also pretty symmetrical. You know, it is going towards the center, but consider moving the vanishing point over to the left or the right a little bit, and don't have your lines going right to the corner because it kind of breaks up the page in a weird way. So just pay attention to that. It just starts to look, they start to look like these abstract forms. And if you do it this way, it tends to give that illusion of the space. I mean, this is very central. It's still very central, but it tends to break up that kind of like illusion that this is just like a geometric shape. So pay attention to that. What else do I want to tell you? I'm going to look at some examples with you. Here are some examples for my in-person class. Your extra credit is to put a form in the drawing that is drawn correctly in 2 point perspective. This is drawn in 1 point perspective, and this table is drawn in 2 point perspective. It's a little bit off, but I think that's a pretty good, it's a pretty good, you know, I don't know. I thought that was a pretty good try for that. These as well, a little bit simple, but I think, you know, good, you know, we see that illusion of space happening, right? This object is drawn in 2 point perspective. And I also think that this was, you know, a pretty successful garbage can, right? I think they did a pretty good job. Okay, so I want to look at some other examples and just show you some things. I want to see if I can find, okay, so here, this is not done correctly. This is, if you see here, this line goes this way and then it switches directions and goes down. So you're not simply connecting corners to the dot. You really have to make it so this line goes directly to the vanishing point, and then this line should also go directly to that same vanishing point. So this example is done incorrectly, although their line quality is very nice. I think that they did a very nice job with their line quality, but their perspective is a little off, which is kind of what I'm looking for in this assignment. It's to see that you guys are drawing these correctly in 2 point perspectives. I'm sorry, in 1 point perspective. So be careful with that. Let me pause this and look for some other examples. Here is another example of a drawing that is not quite done correctly. So this is a horizontal line, and then this line goes back to the vanishing point, but this line here should also go back to the vanishing point down this way. So this is not quite correctly drawn. This back line, this corner, this is a corner that we would not see, is actually done correctly. It's this top part that they're not quite achieving correctly. The bag also. So if we look at this paper bag, theoretically we see this line going down this way and we see this line going down this way, but they have the lines going, I'm not sure what the lines are doing here. They're going kind of, it doesn't correspond with the actual sketch. So make sure that the lines, your construction lines, are corresponding with edges on the actual object that you are drawing, and leave in some of the construction lines so that I can see. Let's see if I can quickly, how quickly I can navigate to, no, sorry, a lot of drawings here. Here's one. This is what I'm talking about. So if you look at this, we can see that some of these lines have been left in. Again, you want to experiment with, just like we did with contour line drawings, you want to experiment with darker lines and thicker lines to represent areas that are closer to you, that we see, that you want to bring emphasis to. And then you want to use lighter, thinner lines to represent edges and things that are farther away. But leave in your construction lines so that I can see how you constructed the actual drawing. And that's going to tell me that you either, you did this correctly, or you don't understand how to construct the drawings. So let's take a look at some of the interior or hallway drawings. So let me jump to this. Let's see something here. Let's jump to this one. So this is what you should be aiming for here. Our interiors, where all the converging lines, even the ones on the floor that represent the paneling, go back to one single vanishing point. And again, this person has done this kind of very centralized thing. So think about knocking your vanishing point off to the right or the left, and to try to avoid all these lines going right into the corners. Otherwise, this is an excellent job. It's very clear that they understand where the lines are supposed to converge, and that horizontal lines are horizontal and that vertical lines are vertical. If we look at this one, it's not clear that this person understands how to correctly construct the drawing using 1-point perspective. So if you are struggling with this, there is use the work in progress discussion post, and I'll give you some feedback, or make an appointment with me on office hours. I'm glad to try and talk to you about this. Or if you really are struggling, try to make it, email me and tell me if you're on campus. Maybe I can meet you on a Friday or something like that, because I'm very close to campus and I can help you guys. And maybe I can set up like an in-person meeting for you guys, depending on, just depending on where I am and what the schedule is like. But reach out to me if you do need help, because it's clear that this person is struggling. And I think that had they, reached out, I could have helped them a little bit to get on, moving in the right direction, or, get them pointed in the right direction. Here's another good one, I thought. And again, these people are using rulers because this is a different class. So I want you guys to do this without rulers. I have a lot of interior designers in this class, so they all, it's just a different class. It calls for a different set of, it's just a little bit different. So I want you guys to try and do these without rulers as best you can. And make sure that you're paying attention to all your lines. And if we also notice here, I think this person did a good job. When lights like this, when they're closer to us, they're wider and they're bigger, because anything that you see that is closer to you ends up being bigger and wider and taller. So, and we'll talk about that in one of the upcoming assignments, but I want you to pay attention to that. And I think that it also, let me pause this just for a second. We also see it happening in sorry, 1 second. Okay, here we go. We also see it happening in this drawing, where the light switches are, you see more of what's closer to you and less of what's farther away. So keep that in mind as well. So here's the rubric, extra credit. If you can pop something in there that's in 2-point perspective. I really only do the extra credit for my online class. I'll give you an extra, 10 points on the assignment. Because that is the next section. So if you understand how to do these, or if you want to read ahead, that's the extra credit. And I think that's everything. Here is the list. If anything is unclear or doesn't match, email me, let me know. I will go ahead and edit the assignment. And if not, I will see you on campus.